in providing consultancy and engineering services in both water and environmental sector, water efficiency and demand management, engineering designs and water supply networks. You provide strong experience in institutional development, including training, capacity building and behavior change, experienced working with USAID projects and other donors, and you have a diploma in social marketing. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Suzanne, for the introduction. So I have to admit that before, while I was working on this presentation, I was a bit skeptical and hesitant about the audience reaction to the presentation, especially our fellow Jordanians among the audience. Now that we have completed a rainfall season for the 2018-2019, that we consider as above average rainfall, and the recent events of I would say catastrophic rainfall events that had brought floods to the capital Amman. And because we usually argue why demand management at all for Jordan? Can we ask people who are already receiving less to even use less water than they're already using? So I have added a couple of slides to kind of demonstrate to you a couple of numbers that we have collected. I can't find the presentation, but... So I have collected, as I said, a couple of numbers that I'm going to run through to kind of give you an idea about the water situation and to reflect the reality of water availability in Jordan. So number 2, which is basically Jordan's rank among the world as the water poorest countries. So we rank number 2 among the world. Another number 2, which is the average annual depletion level, 2 meters per year of the main aquifers. Now, for a big aquifer, 2 meters a year is a very high number. 12 is basically the number of basins, 12 out of 15 major basins underlying Jordan that are being depleted beyond their recharge volume. And less than 100, which is the average available water of renewable resources, or let's say the Jordanian share of renewable water resources every year. Now, if this seems like a big number, it isn't, because the poverty level is considered to be 1,000 cubic meters per year per person. So we're basically 1/10 of that. So talking about water demand management has become an essential subject. If we look at the recent statistics of the number of subscribers, for the year 2007, it was around 92,000 subscribers, and it jumped only in 10 years to 145,000 subscribers, an increase of about 57% in just 10 years. The question is, are we able to meet that demand? There's a huge gap between supply and demand, and there is an increasing number for several reasons of why we are having this increase in the number of subscribers. The government approach has always relied, which is the absolute response, of course, to increase supply. But Jordan has already exhausted its available options. Now, we talk about the DC, for example, DC conveyance, which we're talking about a resource that's 325 kilometers away from Amman, the capital. So you can imagine the pumping cost and the energy cost, not to mention just a couple of kilometers away from here, we have the Zara Ma'in pump station, which pumps water to around 1,000 meters above sea level to carry the water to Amman. So again, the cost of water is not just about infrastructure costs, there's also energy costs embedded. And of course, the anticipated Dead Red Canal. So the idea is, it's just about time that we have more focus on demand management as a tool as a new resource of available water resources. For the government to take serious initiatives on making national initiatives in water demand management. Now, WMI, as it is the mission of USAID, to sort of foster a spirit of self-reliance and self-sufficiency by supporting and building local resources, so there is no need for external support. We have developed an approach, an action plan, a phased action plan for the water sector, for water use efficiency. Now, water demand management in general has 4 main components. One is economic. The economic component to achieve water demand management is usually, we beautify it by calling it restructuring of the water tariff. But what it usually means is increasing the water tariff for customers. This option has been actually dismissed in terms of demand management. Now, we cannot argue that increasing the tariff will definitely achieve cost recovery for utilities, which are already suffering. But in terms of demand management, there are studies that have shown that there's an inelastic relationship between water demand, or the consumption, and the increase in the water tariff. Plus, there is sensitive issues with increasing the tariff on the public in general terms. So this option was dismissed. So we focused on the remaining 3 components, which are the technical, in terms of innovative technologies and water-saving devices, in terms of legislative, looking into local regulations and codes and see where there are potentials to increase water demand management response, and then the education and outreach, which is a component that we can always use. Now, for WMI, I'm going to demonstrate to you some of the main activities that we have conducted so far in terms of water demand management, which we see as activities that have an impact and a different approach than the approaches that were developed before. The first one was the establishment of a water demand management unit at the water utilities. Now, that by itself sounds like an absurd idea. Why would you encourage an entity that sells a commodity to encourage its customers to use less of this commodity? But then this is not completely true when talking about water-scarce countries, because by then, if you don't have sufficient water to supply to customers, then you are compromising the level of service that you are giving as a utility. And therefore, the water utilities need to be the main drivers of water demand management in Jordan. We started this initiative at Miyahuna. We have looked through the organization chart to see where it best fits to have the water demand management unit. And for us, the customer service directorate was the best fit, simply because when you're talking about water demand management data or activities or interventions, they are tied pretty much to customer information. We're supporting the Miyahuna utility for the time being, the recruitment and the staffing of the unit, and we have developed together an action plan that has been approved by Miyahuna's board, and we look forward to establishing a unit at the Yarmouk water utility and the other Aqaba water utility as well. Now, we have an outreach program for schools. Now, it also covers the hotels, but I'm going to focus here on the schools component. We have so far trained 4,500 students all over Jordan, covering the north, middle, and southern parts of the country. We covered public and private schools, males and females. The thing is, we wanted this training not to be a conventional training and to deviate from what other trainings were, is that we wanted to ensure sustainability of this training. So we basically contracted with a local NGO that does an ongoing certification program of schools. So we embedded or modified the criteria for the selection of the schools which are certified as eco-schools to adapt water management or water use efficiency standards and criteria. And they have a running program where they have over 150 schools that are certified. And therefore, we assured sustainability with just by adding those criteria and sort of giving this activity to this NGO. Along with that, we have a retrofit program, and I have some those are pictures taken during the training, some interesting photos that I would like to share with you for some of the schools that we actually retrofitted. Now, if you look to the picture at the right, the faucet right there, I would say the average flow rate of such a faucet was from 14 to 16 liters per minute. The local code states that the water flow rate should not be more than 4.5 liters per minute. So we're talking about triple the standard. And of course, there are other pictures that I can share with you later that show the situation after the retrofit program. We're talking about participation of 52 males. We try to balance between males and females. And then, of course, there was a calculation of the adoption rate just to see what the response was. So we had a pre and post assessment because our project is result-based, and we needed to provide evidence of the impact that our training has left. And that's why we had higher adoption rates for the students from age or grade 1 to grade 5. As compared to the secondary or elementary school stages. Now, another activity that we did is when we looked at rainwater harvesting. Now, the local regulations do state that there's going to be a rainwater harvesting tank, but people sort of misuse the term, and instead they build a tank to be filled by the water utility water. And another issue is that at the municipalities and at GAM, the licensing department do not actually know what the proper size should be. They do not know how to calculate rainwater harvesting tanks. This is where WMI jumped in, and we provided technical plus legislative support, if I may say, to build the capacity of those at the licensing departments to be able to properly measure the rainfall tank sizes. And we have provided them with a guide to support the licensing procedure. In addition to that, we were lucky enough that while we were doing this activity, there was an ongoing amendment on the buildings regulation, whether for the national one or the GAM one. And we have clearly stated that it's mandated to construct a rainwater harvesting tank, and not to be replaced by a fine of any sort. Here are some of the analysis that we ran. For the first time, in cooperation with the Ministry of Water and Irrigation, we have managed to calculate the average rainwater harvesting, average rainfall per district. This is the tool that we have developed. This is the licensing. So whenever anybody goes for licensing in GAM, there is this screen that shows on the Oracle, and we have included rainwater harvesting as a requirement, as you can see there. Okay, another activity that's interesting as well is what we call the Waterwise Homes. It's a national campaign that we're going to start in cooperation with Miyahuna at the very beginning to encourage customers to purchase water-saving devices. And I don't want this to sound as if we're trying to sell the product, but the fact that we want people to buy and make the decision of buying, because this is when people are taking it seriously, and to ensure sustainability of the water-saving devices installed. So the idea, we have initiatives by the utilities to distribute those water-saving devices for free. We are trying to avoid that as possible. As I said, we want to make that as a culture and to sustain the impact. In order to do that, we are developing a national sort of communication campaign to send out the message that we're developing this campaign. There's going to be a website available at Miyahuna as a sub-page to inform the customers about this activity. We are going to be encouraging customers because we've had I wouldn't say the most successful experience with people being reluctant to buy or to install the water-saving devices because of certain technical issues. For example, some of them fail to perform well under low pressure. So we have investigated the market to make sure that we have the best technologies out there, and we will be providing a package of incentives that goes along with the purchase of these equipment. There is going to be categories of customers depending on what water-saving devices you purchase. Some of them are going to be like bronze, silver, platinum, and gold customers. Maybe I don't want to take longer than I should because it's already been 12 or 13 minutes, so I still have 2 minutes to go. The last activity that I will talk about is the upgrade of the local water efficiency related standards. Now, if we look at the Jordanian code or the local market, let's say, it is rich with different types of water using fixtures, but most of them do not meet the local standards in terms of water efficiency. So what we did in collaboration with the Ministry of Water and Irrigation is that we looked into all the water saving or water efficiency related standards, and then we selected 2 standards that are related to be studied or later investigated by JISMO, which is the Jordan Standards and Meteorology Department, to check whether we can upgrade them into technical regulation, in the sense that instead of being voluntary standards, they will become mandatory standards. And we have now succeeded so far to receive the approval from the Technical Review Committee to upgrade the standards, and we're just waiting for finalizing of those 2 standards. We have other interventions that I'll go briefly on. We're developing a mobile application for the sector. We're redesigning the water bill for to the 2 water utilities. The idea here from a water demand management perspective is that we want the water utility, which is the direct link between the utility and the customers, to be more informative about the water use of the customers. We have retrofit programs working with the Ministry of, with the Communication Department at the Ministry of Water and Irrigation for a retrofit program of the major office buildings of Amman, and a training for female plumbers in the south. So in conclusion, there are many tools to achieve water demand management. Jordan has its unique setting in terms of availability of water, continuity of water supply, the cultural aspect, and demographic aspects. So not necessarily all water demand management tools are effective for Jordan. We have in our action plan investigated most of those options available and tested, and based on lessons learned, selected certain interventions that best tool to achieve water demand management in Jordan. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I really read the guide that you have provided or you have developed, and it was really a very good tool for municipalities and elsewhere to use it for the code system. Now, I will welcome also our colleague from the Ministry of Water and Irrigation. You have very little time left. But we really want to see, as you are working in the demand management unit, the sustainability for such initiatives of the project and how you are going to build on them. She has many capabilities for water demand management and 10 years of experience, best management practices, water saving devices, and please share with us some of your insights. Thank you. Faten Shaban.